Okay, so now we're at conditional statements, also known as selection statements. I've never used the ternary operator before instead of if else, so shorthand if else. So what I've learned, the syntax is condition, one condition followed by two expressions. So here we've got the condition, time is less than 18. So the question mark, from what I see, is the if. So if time is less than 18, if variable time is less than the value 18, we'll print good day. Else, with the colon here representing else, good evening. This should work. Okay. Switch statements is another thing I don't really have a whole lot of experience with. Another conditional selection statement. Let's see. Set the missing pass, click the following switch statement. Int day equals 2. Switch day. So that would be the case, would it? Case 1, case 2. See out Sunday day. Not correct. Okay, hold on. Let me think. I understand the gist of a switch statement. Just a way of giving you multiple outputs based on certain inputs. Day equals 2, switch day. I'm thinking here is wrong, but we'll see. Case 1, case 2. Okay, hold on. See how it's Sunday. That should be a break. My bad. Okay. Yeah, that was right, wasn't it? Yeah. So switch day. So the condition is switch. So the condition is 2. 2, case 1. That would be option 1, case 2. You want to break out of that. But there's no condition here that I can see, is there? So we've assigned integer variable day the value 2. We've declared a switch statement here with its parameter, so its argument to it, the argument to its parameter being the int variable up here. Now the code block for the switch statement, we've got two cases, so so it might be the same as an if, else if here. So if this switch statement evaluates to case 1, then we'll see out the day being Saturday. Case 2 will print out Sunday. Okay. I don't see the condition here though. It would be a Boolean return value, wouldn't it? Switch day. So case 1, you'd have the condition in here, so wouldn't it? Or you'd have an if statement up here. So if day equals 2. No. Might have to look at the switch tutorial. And day equals 4. Switch day. Case see out Saturday. Case see out Sunday. Case hold on. Oh, it's not else. Hold on. Oh, it's break, isn't it? Hold on. What am I doing? Break. Case 3. No. Hold on. What am I doing? Hold on. Day equals 4. Switch day. Case 1. Case 2. Let's unmake break. It's hold on, what is it? Is it default? that might be it. Okay, I remember that, but I just don't know how the syntax very well. Let's go to the switch tutorial. Switch statement. So the switch statement, from what I see, is essentially used to replace, large if, else, if blocks. Might be a bit of a neater way to code. Switch expression. Okay, so that's not the condition. Okay. So you switch here. You switch keyword. You got in parameters the expression that you want to evaluate against the cases down here. So say the expression of it was an variable that evaluated to 4. Case X may be 4. The compiler will evaluate. All right, good night. The compiler will evaluate the expression here against all cases within its code block. If there is a match, the corresponding case will be executed. Okay. Break and default optional. Okay. And day equals 4. Switch day. Should print out Thursday. Okay. Okay, so it's evaluating. My bad. It's evaluating. Sorry, it's evaluating its expression. So 4 here against the case number. Nothing within the code block. Okay, so if the variable being evaluated was a string variable named hello, the case should say hello up here. Okay, I understand. And I believe from last trimester's study, should include a break keyword, because something, I think it's called drop down or something. If there's no break keyword, all cases below may be executed. And also, yeah, it would lower the algorithm's time complexity. Instead of evaluating against everything, imagine the code block was 1,000 cases long, or 1,000,000 cases long, for example. Default would be like an else statement. Okay, I understand, I think. Okay, int day, switch day, that's the expression that we're evaluating. So how would I define an expression and a condition? Personally, this is for myself. I would, define an expression in layman's terms as something that is to be evaluated, the thing that we are evaluating, and the condition being how we're going to evaluate it. What's the word? Sort of, yeah. How are we going to evaluate the actual expression is the condition. So in this case, the condition is an equals. If we had an int day and an int month up here, could we do a switch and its argument being day less than month or day greater than month, for example? Can we change the condition of a switch from an equals as it is here by default to a less than or greater than? So could we say switch day, which is 2, is less than, say for example, less than 3. So we'll just execute this, and if we remove the break, it will execute the next one. Might be worth checking out. Okay, so case 1, case 2. See how it's Sunday. Break. Next. Switch day. That's the expression. Case. It's case. Break. Default. So there's nothing here that is matching. No case here matches the expression up here, 4. So we just print out or execute the default code block, which prints out the weekend string. Okay. Loops. Repetition statements. One of the 3 pillars of structured programming being sequence, selection, repetition. Selection being conditional statements, if else, switch. Repetition statements being loops, for loops, while loops, do while loops. I'm no guru. I'm learning myself still. This talk is pretty much just so I can sort of reiterate in my brain and re-clarify things. Okay, so we're doing loops here. References is going to be a little bit of a tough one for me, I think. Functions should be alright. Classes and objects. OOP, still fairly new. Up until now, it's been purely procedural. Okay, so print I as long as I is less than 6. Oh, okay. Okay. So we use the while loop here. While loop is while I is less than 6. So, and then we'll increment I by 1. I wonder, could we do the plus one so it evaluates, so it increments before evaluating? Let's see. Well, no, that doesn't work. Okay. Why wouldn't that work? Let's think about it. So I is 1. Should hand execute this, but so I is 1. Starts off at 1. While I is less than 6, it'll evaluate I is less than 6. It is. 1 is less than 6. We'll print I, and then we'll increment I first. Okay. I've got to learn why I and I is different. I know that it does some sort of incrementing in a different order for each one. Let's just go I++. Use the do while loop. So this is a post condition loop. It will execute the code block once, at least once. So it won't test the condition. First, it will execute the code block and then test the condition after. That's what's called the do while loop. It'll do first, then it will start testing the condition. So int I equals 1. Do this code block, execute this code block. And then we will increment by 1. And then it will check the condition while I is less than 6. And then it will go back up here. That should be right. Okay. Use a for loop to print yes 5 times. So 4. So this is like a range in Python, I guess. I don't know Python, but so 4 int I equals 6. I is less than 5. Increment I. C out. So we'll print yes. A good way to test this, to see how it works, is by hand executing. So if you Google programming or coding hand execution on YouTube, you should find some good resources for that. Believe me, it helps a lot. So stop the loop if I equals 5. So if I equals 5, we might just go break. So this is a nested if statement. It's nested within the for loop here. So in I starts at 0. The condition is so long as I is less than 10. Then we go down, and then we'll test this. If I equals 5, break. We'll break out of the loop. I believe this should be it. So what would happen here? What would happen is we would declare our for loop statement here within within the round brackets here. We would declare an integer I and simultaneously assign it a value of 0. We will then declare the condition whilst I is less than 10. We want to run this code block here and then increment I by 1. Because of this nested if statement, every time I is evaluated to be less than 10, it will go to the nested if statement and then do another check to see if I is equivalent to 5 or equals 5. If it is, it will break out of this whole code block and move on to the next, whatever's underneath. If I is less than 5, it will print out I and then come back up and increment I and then start again. Okay. In the following loop, when the value is 4, jump directly to the next. So we're going to go continue here, I believe. 4, okay, same thing. Integer I, value of 0, condition is I is less than 10. Jump to this code block. If I is equivalent to 4 or it equals 4, we will continue to the next iteration of the loop, which means we won't print this out. We will just bypass this and then increment I so it equals 5, and then this will print out, which means if this continue wasn't there, if this wasn't here, I would be printed out 10 times. From 0 to 9, I will be incremented to 10, a check will take place, and then break out of the loop. But because of this, we are essentially printing out 10 minus 1 times. We're negating the 4 here. If I'm wrong, let me know. This is how I understand it. Arrays. Okay, so what is an array? Essentially a collection of variables. So it's essentially a variable of variables. A multi-element variable is how I would describe an array. Okay, so we want to create a string array. Cars. String is the data type. It's a primitive data type. Cars is the identifier, so it's just the name of the variable. It can be anything you want. There are conventions. Now this square bracket with the 4 in it is the index of the array. What is an index? An index is essentially a position within the container. The container of each index has its own value. Should have its own value anyway. Index 0 is actually, it's the indexes start from 0 to however many elements there are, minus 1. So Volvo would be element 0, BMW element 1, Ford element 2 or index 2, Mazda element or index 3. So index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3. So you've got 3 indexes but 4 elements. Probably work this out, but the reason why there are 4 elements and only 3 indexes is because we start at 0. 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, this should be right. Print the value of the second element in the car's array. So here we are declaring the array string cars. Once again, primitive data type, identifier of the array, size of the array, size of the array. 4 elements. Indexes 1 to 3, 0 to 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. If we want to print the value of the second element, we would use index 1. So BMW should print out here. Second element is actually index 1. To access that, we'd put the identifier of the array, cars, open brackets, close bracket, open square bracket, close square bracket. The index number. So index, second element is index 1. So second element, index 1. First element, index 0. The way I like to think of it is, if I want to access an element's index, we just find the position of the element. In the array, if you look at it visually, position of the element, -1. So it's in position 2, so its index would be 1. If it's in position 4, its index would be 3. If it's in position 30, if there was an array of size 30, if it's in position 30, its index would be 29. Okay, so print the value of the second element in the cars array. Let's go 1. This should be right. Okay. Change the value from Volvo to Opel in the cars category. String cars, size 4. Okay, so we want to go cars, Opel. Volvo is index 0. So it's the first element, index 0. So we go index 0. What am I doing? Hold on. 0. And then Volvo, which is Opel. Loop through the elements in the cars array. So string cars for. Hold on, what am I doing? So we go int I, 0, I is less than 4, I plus plus, C out, cars, I. Okay, so what have we done there? Let's do it again. I just wanted to make sure that was right. It's a for loop. So we know we have a range where we want to. We have a definitive range of where we want to loop. You know, we don't want it to be an indefinite loop. We have a range for the for loop. Now, we need an iterator. An iterator is essentially a variable that will increment or decrement through the range, and once it reaches a condition that we've determined, it will stop iterating. This will prevent things like index out of index out of bounds error, exceptions, stuff like that. So in I equals 0. Now our condition. When I is less than 4. Now why do we want I? What does this mean? This means when the iterator I, which starts at 0, evaluates to true of the when the iterator I is less than 4, we are going to execute this code block. Now when we're going to execute this code block, and then we are going to increment I by 1. Now this will take place until I reaches 4. Now when I is 4, this condition will be checked. Is 4 less than 4? No, it's not. It's equivalent to 4. So then we break out of the loop. Now if we, for example, use this array of 4 elements and put I less than 5, it would throw an exception, an error, and say that indexed out of bounds or indexed out of range, something along those lines. Okay, so now we should go cars I. Now what does this mean? Cars, we're printing out, see out, we're printing out to the terminal the cars array, or the element in the cars array, at index I. What is index I? Well, it starts at 0, so it'll start printing out Volvo. and then it will increment to 1. I will equal 1. So I here will equal 1. So we'll print out BMW. Then it'll increment to 2. Then cars at index 2, Ford. And then 3, cars at index 3, Mazda. And then it will increment to 4. The condition will be evaluated. I's value will be evaluated against the condition will be evaluated. We'll say that I is not less than 4, and the loop will terminate. Excuse me for my bad explanation. I'm just it's late here. Whew. And I've probably got to practice my articulation skills. Reference is a bit of a tricky one. Passing by a value, passing by a reference. Okay, so string food equals pizza. Okay, string at food equals. Sorry, I've got to read. Create a reference variable named meal. Okay, meal, which will reference the food variable, equals food. Okay, so what's happening here? What's happening here is we've created a reference variable. So what is a reference variable? This variable here, the value of this variable here, will contain the memory address of this variable here. So any changes made in this variable, in the original variable, will be reflected in this reference variable. What does this mean? As far as I'm aware, it saves a lot on overhead in terms of resources, because we're not copying an individual, we're not making a copy or an instance of the original variable, for passing to functions and stuff like that. Okay, get the memory address of the food variable, so we just want to put food. Ampersand will get the memory address of a food variable. We're going to dereference next, or no? Okay, pointer, fair enough. Pointers are a bit more tricky. Create a pointer variable with the name pointer. So pointer variable just contains the memory address of the variable that we are pointing to. Pointer variable. The syntax. Hold on. What is the syntax here? Okay, so it's a string pointer, is it? No, that's not right. That's not right, is it? That's right. It doesn't look right. Hold on. Okay. So string, that's the data type. The asterisk essentially declares this variable as a pointer variable, which means it can only store memory address of another variable. Or identifier here, ampersand food. Ampersand once again gives the memory address of food, assigns it to the pointer, PTR pointer variable. Okay. I just want to check that again because I'm a bit unfamiliar with that syntax. String star. Now the star can be here up against the data type declaration, or can also be up against the identifier, as far as I'm aware. Okay, functions, here we go. Now, void function is actually a procedure because there is no return value. Create a function named myFunction and call it inside main. My function, so we're using camel case here. Camel case is just a naming. It's a case convention. The way like case sensitivity. It's casing. Another way we could use is snake case. That's another common one, where we put an underscore between letter names. Another one is Pascal case. So you'd go capital letter for the first word, capital letter for the second word, no spaces, no underscore. But here they want us to use camel case, which I've been using in C# for variables anyway. Right, so we've declared the procedure or void function, named it my function. Open closed brackets is for the parameters if there are any. Curly braces are for containing the code block. And when this function is run, this is what's going to happen. The main function is the entry point to the program. It's where we, execute or create the call stack. For all up here, we execute the call stack. So we're going to call this function in main. So that's all we have to do. Just type the identifier with the open and close brackets. If there were parameters, we'd have to put arguments for each parameter. Okay. Insert the missing part to call my function 2 times. Okay. In main. It's not recursive, so we could just do this. Could we not? Okay. Add a fname parameter of type string to my function. So what is a parameter? It's essentially a variable, type of variable, a special variable that belongs to a function. It can be named anything in the declaration of a function, but when it comes to calling that function in main, or wherever else you're going to call it, you must supply an argument to that parameter, so an input to that parameter. The input must be of the data type specified in the declaration of that parameter. Sounds a bit complicated, but so void my function at f. So we're going to go string. That's the data type of the parameter, and then fname. That's the identifier. We could put anything we wanted technically, but practically we shouldn't. We should make sure that the identifier we put for variables, for parameters, for anything really, is relevant to the data we want the user to put in. And it really helps with code readability. Think about passing on code to other developers and stuff. Once again, I'm not saying any of this because I'm a guru or anything. I'm still an amateur, but it's just for me to sort of listen and to re-clarify with myself, and it might help someone listening, but it's more for myself. Okay, so we've created a procedure, void function, a function or a function with no return value. Given so this function, this procedure is named my function, has a parameter called first name. It's a string parameter, which means when we execute this function, you can see the execution here. It's being called, and you can see that whoever's called this function has supplied a string argument, so an answer or an input. It takes place of this parameter here, and you can see that it's relevant because it says fname first name. He puts John. Okay. Insert the missing part to print the number 8 in main by using a specific keyword inside my function. In my function. Insert the missing part to print the number 8. It's got something to do with the parameter. Hold on. Insert the missing part to print the number 8. It's got to be C out, no? No? Hold on. What's going on? Insert the missing part to print the number 8. Would it be... hold on. I'm a bit stuck here. Hold on. Insert the missing part to print the number 8 in main by using a specific keyword. Keyword. It's return, isn't it? Okay. Yeah, so this is an actual function. It's not a procedure because we're returning. You can see here, it doesn't say void. I didn't see that when I first started. I didn't pay attention, but before it said void. Over here, it says void, which means there is no return. Here it's integer. What does that mean, an integer? It means we must return an integer. It will return an integer, this function. What does that mean? We can then pass the value returned into another function that accepts an integer as an argument to its parameter. In other words, we can use the result of this function. We can use the result of this function in another function or procedure. So you can see here, when this person prints out my function with the argument 3 takes the place of x. So what does that mean? 5 plus 3. It should return 8. It will print 8. Okay. Create a class. Here we go. A bit of OOP, object-oriented programming. I'm not too familiar. Not overly familiar, no. Create a class called myClass. Create an object of myClass called myObj. So we'd go hold on, what am I doing? Let me think. Class is the custom data type. I just forgot the syntax there for a sec. Use an access specifier to make members of my. Alright, so we're going to have to go. It's public, which means that members of my class, so objects of my class, are accessible from outside the class. Okay. If I think of access modifiers, in C# there are things called properties that allow you to access the private fields of class members, of class objects, in a public way. What does this mean here? This public, it means what this means is that if an object is created of the class myClass, we can access the mynum variable of that object from anywhere in the code. I actually can't remember if that's good or bad, but I think that's why in C# they've got properties, because it might be bad. Yeah, it would be bad. like global variables. Alright, create an object of my class called myObj and use it to set the value of mynum to 15. Mynum is a data member, so it's a field which dictates the state of the object. The fields of an object are essentially data variables belonging to an object. It's the state of an object. You think of a person, weight, height, hair color, skin color. They're all fields if a person was an object. Functions or belonging to an object, or functions belonging to an object or belonging to a class are known as methods. These are known as the behavior of an object. So the fields of an object, the variables belonging to the object, are what the objects are, their characteristics of the object, and the methods, which are the functions belonging to the object or the class, are the behaviors of the object. What can the object do? So I was taught. Okay. So create an object of my class called myObj and use it to set the value. Okay, so my class. So using Pascal case here. Okay. My class, myObj. So we can go now. To access the member, the data member mynum of this object, what we want to do is identifier. Now this dot here is known as the member access operator. Dot mynum equals 15. So what's happened here is we've created an object named myObj of the myObject class. So what does that mean? This object here that we've just created inherits. Shouldn't be using that word because it's not inheritance, but it does inherit all of the properties, so the fields, and if there were any methods belonging to the class. So myObj.mynum. So we've accessed the mynum field of this object using the member access operator equals, we're assigning it the value 15, and then we're going to print out the value of the field mynum, and it should be 15. That should be correct. Okay. Create a function named myMethod with no return value. So it's a void function. It's a void function or a procedure. Then use myObj to call myMethod. Okay, so this is a method. All right. Void, create a function named myMethod. Okay. So the class is still my class. The myMethod. Yep, myMethod. It's the function belonging to the class. It's a method. Then use myObj. Okay. So what we want to do, you can see here they've already created an object from this class named myObj, same as I did in the last exercise. Now, same thing. Identify the object. Member access operator is here, which means we can access the method within this object. And all we'll have to do is type myMethod, and that should be right. And we've called, with this call here, this function will be executed, or this method will be executed. Okay. Create a constructor of my class. What is a constructor? It's essentially, I've done this in C#, I don't think I've done this in C++. A constructor is essentially a method that is with no return type, that is automatically executed every time an object of this class of the class it belongs to is instantiated or created. So the constructor is usually the same name as the class. So we go my class, my class public. So yep, this is a public method constructor. Why wouldn't it be private? I know there's a reason why. Why wouldn't the constructor? Wouldn't have to be public, though, would it? The constructor is only executed when an object of the class it belongs to is instantiated, which means if it was private, it wouldn't make a difference. It wouldn't have to be public, would it? The only class that can you only go into instantiate an object from the class that it belongs to. But then you've got inheritance as well. So a child class of this class. You could make it protected, no? Even with inheritance, you could make the access modifier or the scope protected, so that the class and all descendants are the only ones who can access it. Okay. Constructor. Oh, what I made a mistake. Hold on. There's something wrong here. Hold on. Is there a keyword? Two. I don't know the I'm thinking of C#. Hold on. Obviously it wasn't int. Hold on. Public. I just need to know the keyword for the C++ constructor keyword. Hold on. Explicit, is it? I didn't know that. Let's read. Contextually converted concept expression. Is it explicit? No. No. Let's show the answer. I actually don't know. Oh, it was my class. Okay, I forgot the my bad. I forgot the I was right in the sense that it is named after the class, but obviously it's a function. It's a method. It needs the brackets, open close brackets. Noob. Okay, let's do that again. Public my class, same name as the class for the constructor, and then of course don't forget the brackets because it's a method, after all. And then we will instantiate the object, and that should be right. Okay. Use access specifier to set the X variable to public in Y to class, my class. So we go public colon, and then we go private. So private can only be accessed within the class. I don't think it can even be accessed within the tree or the hierarchy with inheritance. The car class should inherit the attributes and methods from the vehicle. Here we go, inheritance. Class car, public vehicle. What scores this? I'd love to see it. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. For those who stopped by, that was fun. I feel like I've got a somewhat of a solid grasp on the basics, on the fundamentals, which is what I'm always aiming for. A solid foundation can always be built upon. So what things do I have to focus on? I think the switch statement is something I've underused. I've maybe rightfully so, but I haven't used it very much, so I've forgotten the syntax for the switch statement. And definitely object-oriented programming. Things such as the math library, which is part of the standard template library, I haven't used very much. Okay.